Marvin, can you hear us?
Sorry.
Okay, I hear Marvin.
In a speed truck.
Ready, guys? I'm going to call to order the Tuesday, December 7th, 2021 meeting of the Iredell County Board of Commissioners. At this time, if you'll please bow your heads in a moment of silent prayer, particularly lifting up our nation, our state, our community, and remembering the sacrifice of those servicemen and women who fought in World War II, beginning with December 7th in Pearl Harbor 80 years ago today. If you'll please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, would you please review any adjustments to the agenda?
Thank you, Chairman Mallory. We do not have any adjustments to this evening's agenda.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Commissioner Brown. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Like sign. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, we do not have any presentations this evening, but we do have two appointments. The first is a presentation of the audited June 30th, 2021 financial statements. And Deb Cheek, our finance director, and I believe it was from Martin Starnes and Associates, will also be here.
Yes, thank you. Each year, we are required to receive an independent audit from an outside auditing firm, and our firm is Martin Starnes out of Hickory. And tonight, we have Cassie Wilson here to present the audited statements to you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you so much for having me. Again, my name is Cassie Wilson. I am with Martin Starnes and Associates, and I am the manager of the audit for Iredell. So let's talk about some audit highlights from the 6/30/21 year that was under audit. We issued an unmodified opinion. That is a clean report. That is the highest quality opinion that we can give you. Something to mention, along with the financial aspects and what we do with the audit, there is the compliance. And so for the state and federal single audit reporting, we had 8 programs tested for 2021. The financial statements will have some changes. As you review them this year, you will notice that the GASB 84 implementation is in there. And so how the former agency funds were reported, those fiduciary funds are now broken up. Some were moved. I'm sure you recall the information that Deb probably brought before you for some changes and moving of those funds. And so what we have with that is custodial funds are now reported as what was former agency funds. And so those changes, if you have any questions about how that is presented, just let me know. But all of that is as a result of GASB 84 being implemented. And again, GASB being the Governmental Accounting Standards Board. Next year, we will have GASB 87. Both of these were previously approved by the government board and has been delayed due to various factors. The amount of time requirements that go into doing the fiduciary changes as well as these upcoming leases for next year were significant. And so although they were supposed to be implemented back in 2020, they were delayed by the board by the GASB board because of the additional factors with COVID. So the leases will be a significant change next year and how that is reported within the financial statements and how it's valued. The LGC also added what they call performance indicators this year, and those are specifics that are pieces of information from your actual financial statements. When we report your actual audit to them, there is a worksheet that goes with that with different parts of the financial statements. They take those pieces, they put them together, and they compare them to units of a similar size. They don't necessarily do it by population group alone anymore. They look at what your expenditures are and compare you within that group. And so these performance indicators are supposed to be of value to them to help them with reporting. If there's anything that they see might be below average within your group, or you may have had something that reported in a loss. They just want to make sure that management is aware of this and what they call self-reporting to the LGC now. So this information is provided to Deb. She shares it with each of you, and she has a draft report or a draft letter that goes back to the LGC of any performance indicators that were noted. And so we'll talk about what was noted for Iredell as we go through the presentation today, but it was nothing significant. But it's just a letter that has to go back to them now instead of them reaching out to you first and asking you why such and such may have occurred. They want you to report just directly to them. So we'll talk about the fund balance in the general fund first as we get into the details here. The fund balance for the general fund increased. You added $19,414,056 to the general fund balance. So as we discuss further, we'll look at the revenues and expenditures specifically and what has driven that increase. For the general fund, the available fund balance as calculated and required to be reviewed by the LGC, they take this available fund balance calculation. For you, you take your total fund balance in the general fund. You have non-spendables that get subtracted out of that, as well as the stabilization by state statute number. That arrives you at the available fund balance of $94,235,740. That is an increase in available fund balance, which is not a surprise since you had an increase in overall fund balance for the general fund. So that's always a positive reflection to see that available fund balance increase. Now, when we look at their other calculation that they find of value, that is taking a percentage of your general fund expenditures to see where you're at with your available fund balance. So the available fund balance as a percentage of general fund expenditures was 41% for 2021. The unassigned, which factors in the specific amounts that you have maybe for assigned or committed for projects, that percentage is 31%. So you can see you're doing well. You had for FY20, the available fund balance percentage was 35.2, so you had a growth. And the unassigned was 25.7, so you had a growth there as well. So just as a snapshot to compare you, all the data is always for prior year because we have to receive all the information in from other units and what is around you. So this is looking at your population group average, and I think that they're going to start providing information just by your group related to similar general fund expenditures going forward. But what we've presented and looked at previously has been by population group, so you can see where you stand with those that are around you at this time.
Explain that a little more, please.
So what this means is when each of these units looked at what their percentage was compared to their general fund expenditures, where their available fund balance was, and they took that and they divided that by their general fund expenditures. This is their percentage within there. Again, you all have different goals. You all have different things going on with your citizens and projects in mind. So those numbers are going to be, they're going to fluctuate and be pretty fluid from unit to unit. However, just thinking of those that are around you and how you compare to them, you can see within the 630-20 there, you had Davidson was higher than you, as well as Catawba. But again, each of those units have other things going on, and we actually audit as well. So we see what they have going on. So it's nothing that says that you're below them. You're right there within them as far as goal-wise for your available fund balance percentage. What the LGC would concern is if you were at 10% and they were all in the 30 above, then they would be concerned of what's going on in the specific area.
Right.
So looking at your revenues and expenditures compared to 2020, you can see revenues went up in 2021 as well as your expenditures. The county had an increase in the general fund revenues, about 11%, and the expenses had an increase of about 10.2%. So the revenues, if you were not looking at the other sources, transfers in, and any other financing sources, it would still have increased, just not quite as much. So this breaks down those general fund revenues by your big categories. So we have your property taxes with 60%, the other taxes and license at 23%, the federal and state grants 8%, and your other category of 9%. So these are fairly comparable to the prior year as far as your percentages of revenues. You can see specifically when we look at your ad valorem taxes from 2020 to 2021, you had an increase here of about 9.6 million. The other taxes and license also had a significant increase here, about 8.6 million compared to 2020. The majority of this category is your local option sales tax. Most of the units across North Carolina were very happy and surprised to see that they had such a significant growth in local option sales tax. So it's very positive to see you still had that as well, and you had a significant growth in that area. But it's not something you can always rely on from year to year, right?
Exactly.
It would make the budget process much smoother, I'm sure. So for restricted intergovernmental, that's your federal and your state grants. Again, this is going to fluctuate from year to year. The federal government giving out significant CARES Act grants, things that have passed through for social services and the health department. Those revenues are impacted here in the general fund, and so you see that growth here. And though some of the ARPA funds that American Rescue Plan, those are in a special revenue fund, so you're not going to see how that specifically will impact your general fund going forward once you start expending and having all those impacted in your financial statements. So this will be a special revenue fund. But if you would like going forward, please let me know ahead of time, and we can help you with maybe reporting specifically on that slide and those revenues if we want to add that in. Otherwise, we really just focus on what impacts the general fund with those federal and state grants. So the general fund expenditures, we have the same breakout here for your categories. We look at education being the bulk at 41%. Then you have human services of 14%, your public safety 21%, debt service is 12%, and then your other category is 12%. That 12% other category includes your general government, economic, fiscal development, culture and recreation, all within that other group.
You have a percentage breakout of debt service. Most of that is associated with schools.
Yes, the majority of yours is, I would say, probably
Is-
80% or better. Yeah, over 80% of yours is specifically related to your education.
This is pretty consistent with us maintaining about 50% expenditure
Yes.
for education.
For education.
My question is the 41% inclusive of all education spending, including capital, or would you add the debt into that? Because
It would be additional.
we get beat up from that perspective. They say, oh, you're not 50, you're 41. But when you add all expenditures, capital included, you are closer to the 50 number.
Yes, so what the LGC and the breakout in your general fund, that presentation breaks out debt service that's, whether it's education related or government related, that is broke out into debt service. So you don't see that within your 41% there.
Can we see a pie in that in the future?
Absolutely.
Of how much of the debt service is education, period?
Yes.
Because then you could add that category to education on the left. That gives you a truer number for the public of investment in education total, if that's okay. Because that would show you,
Absolutely.
because like James said, the majority of the debt service you see there is education.
Yes, the majority of that is.
Right.
So it would be fair to say that you are definitely an additional 9% to that
Right.
education
So you're still about
piece.
50%, as we have said, to
Yes.
clarify it. Okay, thank you.
Yes. And if they wanted to specifically see what makes up that education piece, if they look in the financial statements, for those that may be watching online or something, if you add to, once this is posted out there, they can look into the details of the general fund and they can see what makes up the education. So you're looking at what the local current expense is, what capital outlay is, and at no point does it have debt included in that education piece.
And I think
But
just
we'll
when
do
they
that.
take a quick glance at that, the
Yeah.
public just sees education 41%, and they hear us say, you know, we're about half of what we bring in of every penny.
Right.
And so I think if you just saw education debt service, you could add those two numbers easier. Any layman looking at that pie chart, if that was identified, could add those two numbers together to get that total, because that's an investment in education, which is job training, all of the things for economic development that we talk about in our world. I think it would be helpful to identify that
Yes.
separately. Even though it's in debt service, it could be a different category for debt service.
Yes, I'll make sure that gets added.
Thank you.
To talk about education a little bit further here, we have a piece here that actually shows what the detail is of those numbers. So you can see from 2020 to 2021, excluding any piece related to debt, you can see that you had a significant increase, over 91 million here for education alone. For debt service, due to payments and how that decreases over time, you had a decrease in 2021 for your debt service payments. About 27.6 million is where that was for FY21. Human services being another significant category, of course, for any county. You had a little bit of a decrease there, and again, that's just fluctuation and timing of the federal and state grants and how that passes through, because most of human services is funded within federal and state granting.
Now, where are CARES Act funds, American Rescue and funds?
So those are not within this slide. This is just specifically looking at what's within the general fund. So anything that comes through that was CARES related, that was specifically allocated health department or social services by one of their specific programs, that's reported within here. And that's how it would be with any other funds that come through related to the pandemic funds that's being handed out. But the actual amounts, the millions of dollars that come through, that is in a special revenue fund. And so that is not presented, but we can absolutely going forward, since that's a 4-year spending plan that you have for that, I'm happy to add a slide for that going forward. You tell me what information you specifically want on there, and we'll make sure we have that data.
Yeah, I think that's important for people to see.
Yes.
And if you back up to debt service, doesn't have a specific page, but when you have a reduction or an increase in debt service, can we have some type of explanation of what was either paid off, what was eliminated from the debt service, or what came online.
Okay,
Because I know like when we did the school bond, we only needed a penny of new money because, we had debt services from the schools and ourselves that we could pay that debt service with. Basically, we repurposed the difference from what the total cost is going to be. And I think that's important to show people. We're just repurposing money to pay debt service, and we're not going to the taxpayers for more money than we need to continue in a growing county. I think that's important to show them the investments we've made, and we're paying off things and repurposing that revenue.
okay.
Thank you.
This slide shows the public safety spending comparison from 2020 to 2021. You had a slight increase there, about $287,000. Nothing significant noted there. The solid waste disposal facility fund is presented here with some just key factors for you to look at. What your net operating income ended at, the depreciation expense for the year, what the total net position was for the fund, what your unrestricted net position was, noting that usually when we're looking at your unrestricted net position, the difference there is what you have invested in your capital assets. And then your cash flows provided by operations showing that positive over $5 million there. Your other enterprise fund that we talk about is the EMS Special Services Fund. That had your net operating income listed here, $370,000, depreciation expense, what your total net position is, the unrestricted net position, and then the cash flows provided by operations, again, was positive, so that's good to see. As I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, something that the LGC had added was the performance indicators. The only performance indicator to really discuss for Iredell County is the deficit fund balance. The Iredell Statesville High School project had a deficit fund balance. That's only the result of the timing with the debt and the issuance of that and what had already started with that project. So it's nothing of concern. The LGC just wants a letter to them that says it's the result of the timing of the debt and that piece of it. And so we actually had specifically instructed when Deb reached out to us about that, not to worry about it, to go ahead and show that deficit fund balance because it was the result of the timing there between the years and when everything was actually closing. So nothing of concern there, just something that within the LGC's requirements gets reported to them. That's it as far as details. I just want to take a moment to thank you for allowing us to continue to be your auditors, for all the hard work, your finance department, all the department heads with the emails and the questions and the analytic questions and the detail back and forth. We greatly appreciate all their hard work. The social services department, I think at some point they're just ready for us to go away because they know soon enough we'll be back. So they are terrific to work with and are such great about getting us the information. You have a really good department heads working for you, and especially we deal with social services and finance the most, and they really they take a lot of stuff that we throw at them and new things each year as standards change, and we really appreciate all their hard work and due diligence and making sure controls are in place and working so hard to get us the pieces that we've asked for. So I really greatly appreciate all their hard work.
And we appreciate the professional and complete job that you and your staff at Martin Starnes have done in terms of our auditing process. It clearly more than passes muster with the bond rating entities out there as we've gone to sell bonds. We've achieved a AAA rating, 2 out of the 3 bond rating entities, which for a county our size, without a four-year university within the four corners of this county, is very rare. So it's a team effort, and the credibility that your audit brings to our internal operation of checks and balances pays off in terms of being able to bring in savings to the taxpayers for the money that we do borrow for the major projects. So thank you for your hard work, and as soon as you finish one audit, you're starting the next.
Yep, in the spring, it'll be time to talk about scheduling for interim work and all the control work that goes with that. So soon enough, it'll be here.
Thank you again. Any
Thank you.
questions?
I just wanted to reiterate that we appreciate, I want the taxpayers to know that this is an outside audit firm that's done, and it's fresh eyes and independent eyes looking at all of our books and all of our investments and all of our revenue streams and debt services. And I just want to applaud our administration and our staff from Deb's department, because in the last 2 years, they've had a tremendous workload. I'm going to say at least 50% just from the COVID responsibilities and all of that, in addition to their normal duties of day-to-day operations without increase in staffing. And from our perspective, they're just as conservative and concerned about taxpayer dollars and expenditures, our administration down. And I just want to applaud them, because in our political arena, there's a lot of things thrown out sometimes that's a lot of distortions and inaccuracies. But we do have outside audits all the time, and we're living within our means. 60% of our fund balance is property taxes. We're the lowest property tax of any county around here. We have other revenue streams because we're a growing county and we have balanced growth. So I just want to applaud our staff and our board and our previous board from the investments that's been made. And I want to thank our taxpayers for trusting us when we go to them for a bond for school expenditures, and we're able to save money. We're going to a groundbreaking tomorrow for one of the middle schools, but Deb got financing under 2% for that project, and that's wonderful and saves lots and lots and lots of taxpayer dollars because it's voter approved. And so I just want to applaud our staff and our citizens for trusting us to tell them the truth and ask them. We go to them when we need revenue streams, and we don't go to them when we don't, because we're spending our money, living within our means. But I want to applaud staff, and I want to thank the citizens for trusting us. When we say we need something, they've trusted us, they approved it. And just like tomorrow is an example of how we will save money because of lower interest rates and the investments we're making. We're repurposing, as I asked you before, old debt as debt services are paid. So that's our staff doing a great job, and I want to thank the citizens for trusting us. And sometimes they have to look beyond the rhetoric and get the details, and that's what I ask them to do, is always ask questions, call the manager or any of us, and we can get them the right people. But we have a top 10 county in almost every category, top 5 economically, and we're proud of that. And there's a lot of counties, I'm on the NCACC board, there's a lot of counties that would love to have the growth problems we have. Because we're a very diversified county, as you know. And, but I just wanted to applaud staff because of the responsibilities that have come on them with these requirements that comes with the money that we appreciate, the grant funding and all these other things, but comes with that a lot of reporting and a lot of classes and studying and things. They have to make sure they're reporting it accurately, as you know, or you would be screaming at us.
Yes, I sit in on the same webinars.
That's right.
It's exciting.
But I want the public to know that, and I think this is the time we can applaud them and your efforts and what they do to make sure the money's spent where it says it is, and it's not being frivolously spent. So I want to applaud them from our seat, and thank you.
Yes,
Again.
Have a Merry Christmas.
thank you. Merry
Merry
Christmas.
Christmas.
Thank you.
Okay, the second appointment for the board is a presentation by Jen Bozer from the Iredell County Economic Development Corporation concerning the existing industry survey report.
Save us on the thumb drive. Let me see if it's still on the thumb drive. Let's see. I don't see the thumb drive in here. It's not pulling up. It's empty.
Jen, did you bring your tap dancing shoes?
No, that's okay, I can still do that. Can I just have a copy of one of your
Yes.
reports? So,
You can.
not, and that
Well,
way
say
I
I'll
can-
come down and fix that, but then it never would work again.
Usually it's user error on my part, so that's why I have Chad here. He's always my handy dandy tech guy. So thank you for having me tonight. I'm Jen Bozer, President and CEO of Iredell County Economic Development Corporation. And in the audience with me, I have Chad Thomas, who's our Director of Business Development. Before you tonight, we have a report. It is a business pulse report of our existing industry. As you all know, existing industry is one of our key pillars in economic development and a big focus for us. It really drives the activities of the EDC. And when we go out and we meet with companies, we want to understand what their challenges are, what their growth needs are. And we then are able to connect them with resources, bring them together in forums, and also understand what are the dynamics at play on an aggregate level across businesses that are challenging or opportunities. So the Business Pulse survey is a moment in time. It's an opportunity for us to cast a wide net out to a larger group of business, a diverse group of businesses across the county, and really understand at that moment in time what their thoughts and concerns are and where trends are. And so our hope is to do this every year and look at some of the information inside of the report will change. COVID obviously was a big driver right now, and it may continue to be, we hope not. But every year we'll kind of look at what are those dynamics at play and try and get a pulse rate. So I'm going to set this up a little bit to tell you about our process. We received 121 responses to the survey with a good split across the county, with approximately 40% of responses from Statesville, 43% from Mooresville, 9% from Troutman, and the remaining percentage from the unincorporated areas of the county. We launched the survey in August, early August, which was kind of at an interesting time because we were kind of peaking with COVID again. So I think that did impact potentially some of the results in there when we talk about results, and went through the first week of September. We shared the survey results on October 1st with our community, and there is a report on the homepage of our website for those that are interested in reviewing it. Nearly half the responses came from businesses with fewer than 10 employees. Another 28% were from businesses with fewer than 50 employees, and 23% were from businesses with more than. There. Like, I can hear
I'm
myself.
gonna work on you tonight.
Sorry about that. And so our top sectors that responded to the survey were retail accommodations, professional services, and manufacturing. Those are also correspond with the top sectors that are in Iredell County, so we weren't surprised by that. We did get significant response from the downtowns. Both the downtown Statesville and downtown Mooresville alliances helped us with promoting the survey. So that was helpful too. And so on the on the outlook, generally the outlook for Iredell County businesses is strong. 60% of businesses anticipate employment or sales growth over the next year. And none of the companies that responded to the survey indicated any signs of downsizing. So that's pretty good for sort of a random survey of 121 companies across sizes for none of them to be downsizing. You know, majority of that growth was going to be in employment. We had a few that were looking for expansions, and all of those that were looking to expand, plan to expand inside of Iredell County. If you look at the different areas of questions, really the questions in the survey around our business climate, we first looked at the national business climate, and the concerns and uncertainty for businesses lie chiefly within the national climate, including supply chain disruption, inflation, rising wages, the global economy. Trade policies weren't as high, but COVID-19 definitely was the peak. That was on everyone's mind. And again, this was during a period of August, which has since sort of calmed down some. But I think that still is on the minds of business. When you look at workforce, and I think this is a continuation of some of that, you know, companies are really facing challenges right now with workforce. And that's nationally. That's not just in Iredell County. But they're having challenges navigating vaccine testing and safety related to new variants. There's challenges with talent attraction and retention, skills gaps, rising healthcare and wage costs. Some term it a talent tsunami right now, with folks resigning. You know, our older generation are taking early resignations. We're seeing a talent reset where folks are looking at different ways that they can work, whether that be freelancing, whether that be something more flexible. You know, with the pandemic, we were faced with a lot of people being able to work remotely from home, and a lot of those folks still want to keep that lifestyle. And many workers have chosen to leave the workforce. A lot of folks stayed in their jobs over the last 2 years and now are looking to change job opportunities. And then we're also seeing a rise in the gig economy, which is really an interesting trend and dynamic. We also asked businesses in the survey about their awareness of workforce development resources and training programs, and whether they've taken advantage of those programs, have an interest, or not. And overwhelmingly, the majority of our businesses had not taken advantage of them. And so this is obviously a real opportunity for us right now to be working with our various workforce development partners, Mitchell Community College, our school systems, the Central Iowa Workforce Board, to make sure that companies are aware of the different resources that are there to help them reskill, upskill, find, and also tap into labor pools that maybe they traditionally haven't tapped into. Then we looked at the operational concerns facing businesses, and again, they were related to supply chain disruptions, cybersecurity, and really technology disruption. And we're seeing a lot of this right now with automation, artificial intelligence, data analytics is playing into a lot of businesses, which is also changing the workforce skills, needs, and credentialing. With supply chain disruption, we're seeing an influx of activity with manufacturers expanding and adding distribution centers within close proximity to their manufacturing facilities. We're also seeing other kinds of distribution and e-commerce activity related to companies wanting to have strategic locations within very close proximity to meet client and consumer demand. So I think that's where you're seeing our activity in Iredell County from a announcement and activity standpoint. When we look at the last area and real specifically related to our local governments, are local services and utilities. So we asked them about how we're doing in different areas: water, sewer, electric, telecommunications, streets, roads, highways, schools, parks, public safety, zoning, permitting, and inspections. And we received high marks on public safety services, including police, fire, and EMS. We saw a high satisfaction for water, sewer, and our utilities, electric and telecommunications, which is not true across the nation again. I think we sit in a very robust place where we have amenities that other communities don't have. Streets and roads and highways was kind of a mixed bag depending on where you are in the county. In Statesville, the remarks were higher. I think they have a little bit more opportunities to get to different places because they're not bound by a lake. Whereas in Mooresville, the road congestion was a little bit more concerning. And then permitting, zoning, and inspections. I know that the different municipalities have seen a lot of activity in the last year or two. But definitely, I think there's some areas of opportunities, and that's one area that Matthew Pierce on our team through the funding of the county has focused on helping small businesses really navigate those zoning and regulatory challenges. When you have a business that's never done it before, that's half the battle. And I know that different entities across the county have been looking at ways to try and streamline that so that it is easier for businesses to work their way through the process. But overall, the county had on the last part, the economic and professional environment. Overall, the county had very high marks for quality of life, 88%, and the overall business climate at 77%. A cost of business was relatively, not a concern, and I think a lot of that is because of our low tax rate and also because of the various programs that, have been available for businesses in the community. So what's next? Again, this is just a pulse. This just gives you an idea of where we stand. I think overall the results are good. Every community has areas where they have challenges and opportunities, and we'll continue to work with our businesses to identify what those are and what we can do and gather information. And then we'll look at doing the survey again a year from now, and we'll be able to benchmark ourselves to say, this is where we were, how are we doing now? And look at those specific things that fall within each local government on how we go back to the business community to tell them how we're addressing different things. So thank you.
Any comments?
I just had a couple I'm excited I serve for this board and on the NCACC board, 8 counties, and this region is growing. I'm looking at your census information, and just for the citizens that couldn't see it on the big board is, North Carolina grew from 2010 to 2020 by 904,000 at 9.5%. And then our county is 27 or 17.1%, but all of our surrounding counties in our region seem to be increasing to some degree or not falling far. And I wanted to point that out because I think that's important with businesses and that kind of growth. And I think Your number of 60% of businesses are anticipating growth in employment and sales over next year, and that's phenomenal. And then when we get down to concerns, I know our manager and our staff, along with you guys, are always monitoring, in growth comes with the permitting and zoning and septic and roads and all of the infrastructure stuff. And I know our manager and our team keeps looking at that to try to stay ahead of those curves and keep times down. From a business feedback, that's important from your perspective, so please continue working with Beth and her staff for that, because I know that's consistently a problem, is one, hiring people and finding people and competing with the private sector to get people to get that down. So I know businesses, they get frustrated, or people get frustrated with the delays sometimes, but we do have a growing problem, and that's a good thing to have. So if people can work with us on that and be understanding, we appreciate that. And I just wanted to point out, Representative McNeely mentioned it the other day, and I thought it was important, that in North Carolina, 95% of all businesses have fewer than 49 employees.
That's right.
So we still need to continue working for the big businesses, but the small businesses, and we don't need to forget them too. People shop local and all of those things, but I wanted people to hear that statistic. 95% of all businesses have fewer than 49 employees. So small businesses make up America. And I think it's important for us to continue focusing and supporting those where we can. And, but I wanted to say thank you for all we do. I wanted to say thank you to all of the businesses and industries that invest in Iredell County. And I thought it was interesting, because we're asked all the time, being the NASCAR county per se, your example of 40% of North Carolina's motorsports teams and manufacturers are located in Iredell County. I think that's important and phenomenal for us to figure out a way to help them as they repurpose sometimes, and hopefully that industry will pick back up and not decline at all. But I wanted to say thank you for all you do. I know our economic task force on our behalf works well with the manager and you guys, and we don't always get the details until we get them. But I thought it was worth re-mentioning for the public and applauding a successful county and all that you guys do, the businesses and industry that's coming here. I think we don't maybe applaud that enough and cheerlead that. But I wanted to remember our small businesses and our big businesses and remind the public the job opportunities are there. As we see the growth, we're going to sometimes deal with growing pains from our perspective in the service side of it. But I do appreciate the citizens trying to understand. We're competing with private sector businesses, and our people get behind sometimes for, whether it's septic or zoning and all of those things. But they're working really hard to try to get there as fast as we can. And Commissioner Brown's been in the building industry, and he can tell you it's frustrating sometimes, but I just want to say thank you to those builders and developers and all the people that tolerate the delays sometimes, because it's a good problem to have to some degree. Thank you.
Other comments?
I just appreciate seeing it in print too at times. It gives you a good reference point to go back to. So, outstanding. Thank you.
Well, I'd just like to say to Jen and her team at the Iredell Economic Development Corporation, what a joy it's been to work with you. The team that you lead is the product of an evolution from two separate organizations, one in the Statesville, one in Mooresville, that came together. And despite a lot of skepticism about whether or not that could even happen, and whether or not it would be equitable and fair and all of that, it's been a resounding success in terms of the ability to market the entire county and to be able to equitably develop all portions of the county, playing to each portion's strengths. So that when companies are attracted to the Charlotte region, and that's what happens, they're looking in the Charlotte region, and they land in Mecklenburg County to begin with, and then they start drawing a circle around it because, well, the taxes are too high, or cost of doing business is too high, and they start looking for surrounding counties. Then we want them to segue to Iredell County, the entire county, And they are able to, because we are such a diverse county, be able to, choose like going down a buffet line. It just depends on what they want, we've got it. And the results speak for themselves. Our whole focus as a board for several years now has been on growing the pie. People are rightly concerned about the tax burden of at various levels and various different types. And it's a simple algebra equation. If you're looking at ad valorem property taxes, it's tax rate times the tax base equals the revenue. And we're in a county that's growing, and the demand for services grow. Whether you did nothing, the demand for services would grow just because of people moving into the county to live. So we want to make sure that people who are moving into the county were working in the county. And we're going to have businesses attracted to this environment. And as a result, if you grow the pie, then the tax base as it grows increases the revenue, and the tax rate can stay the same. We recently came out, the state recently published the tier ratings from the Department of Commerce that basically determined which counties were most distressed, and we're going to get the most love from the state in terms of business recruitment funds. Tier 1 was 40 counties, Tier 2 is 40 counties, and Tier 3 is 20 counties. And if you're in Tier 3, then you just don't get a lot of boosts from the state. Sometimes it comes along when it's a state-level project. But basically, folks come to Iredell County based on the whole range of things that we have to offer that other counties don't have, that the state is trying to make up for. But Iredell County is solidly within that Tier 3 group, and it changes slightly from year to year. This last year is a hard year to kind of baseline on anything because of COVID and supply chain disruptions and all of that. But we are doing very well in comparison to our competitor counties, even though we're in the same region. We're in the same boat. We collaborate and we work together, but we do compete too. And so we've been very successful in attracting quality industry and, most importantly, high-paying quality jobs. Now, our Economic Development Corporation, everyone always thinks it's out recruiting businesses, and obviously that's a big part of what economic development's about. But the reality is, just like we deal with small businesses being where the majority of business employment is, like Commissioner Howe noted, and you noted in your report, existing businesses provide the majority of our new jobs because they're expanding. So I'm really gratified that the Economic Development Corporation has had a very intentional and intensive focus on serving our existing industries and employers. And it starts off with asking them, hey, what are we doing right and what are we doing wrong? And where can we improve? And this first report is a great baseline to start with and give a snapshot and tell us where we need to make improvements. But the investment that's coming down the road in terms of the economic development community and its engagement with our businesses and our educational institutions is going to be a initiative called Iredell Ready. And that is basically how do we collaborate and coordinate between all of our educational institutions, a systematic, consistent method of developing workforce for our companies. And that initiative, as it's rolled out, all of our educational entities Iredell Statesville Schools, Mooresville Rated School District, and Mitchell Community College are working together so that from industry's perspective, they're not confused. They can't figure out where the belly button is to push to get, some kind of assistance in developing the skills that they need. So that's going to be rolled out, but, a lot of good work's been done to lay the groundwork for that collaborative effort. Because we know that our economic development and education are joined at the hip. And workforce development is the long pole in the tent today. So want to just thank, again, our economic development team. And there are two positions very specifically that have been working hard in areas that we really didn't emphasize before. 4 years ago, there really was an intentional effort on, workforce development. 4 years ago, there really wasn't a focus on our small businesses. And so we have funded partially a position within economic development for that small business ombudsman. So that's an initiative, I think, that's made a big difference for a lot of small businesses. So once again, thank you for all that you bring to the table on a daily basis. And I know it's been nonstop, very busy, and will continue to be. And we'll be there to do what you need us to do to make things happen.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate it. And I will give a shout out to Jessica Stewart, who's our VP of Workforce and Strategic Initiatives, for her work. She also designed the report before you, so she self-taught herself how to do InDesign, which is pretty amazing. And Matthew Pierce, who was our Director of Existing Industry, he's now with the City of Statesville, but he made a huge impact while he was with our organization, and we hope to continue a partnership with him. We do have 2 open positions, existing industry manager position, hoping to, have someone great come in and continue that collaboration with the local community, and then a marketing and research manager to help us continue to be data-driven and make sure that we're being what we're seeing. The data analytics side of everybody's business is important to help you make decisions and informed decisions. So thank you all for your support and your time.
Thank you.
All right, we will now move on to a public hearing to consider a text amendment to the Land Development Code. And is the sign-up sheet available? Well, Matthew, nobody signed up. So take your pitch.
I'll try not to let my feelings get hurt.
Okay, well, we'll listen to you.
Okay. Hopefully this one's pretty straightforward. As I've shared previously, this is a section of the ordinance we do have to amend, it seems, every couple of years. We'd amended it last in 2019. And as I said, we've got another amendment that will probably come later this year. As the state statutes change and the state model ordinance change, we have to kind of keep up with that. We put those off sometimes when we can, but we got to a point where we needed to go ahead and make some adjustments. And most of it comes down to just wordsmithing, some clarification, but no content really with the changes. I will point out, we've got Johnny Williams with me in the back room. He's our erosion control guru. Thanks to his work and working with the state, we've got this. The planning board did unanimously recommend for these text amendments. We went through it with detail with them, and it's pretty straightforward. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Matthew?
Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I'd like to make it, sorry.
We still have to open the public hearing.
That's right.
Sorry.
I'll open the public hearing. I don't have anybody that's signed up to be heard. Is there anybody that'd like to be heard? Brian, you want to talk about it? Yeah, I'm going to close the public hearing and ask if there's any further discussion. Is there a motion?
Yeah, I'd like to make the motion to recommend approval of the text amendments to Appendix H, the Iredell County Soil Erosion and Sediment Control Ordinance.
Motion by Vice Chairman Nieder. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 We are unanimous. If anybody wonders, we have a pause because Commissioner Norman is participating remotely this evening, and there's about a 6 to 7 second delay in the time he hears a motion and then responds, and then we hear his response. So
Thank you.
you've made it with unanimous
Yes.
unanimity. Okay, item 8 is our administrative matters. These are matters that typically involve technical issues that are brought before us by staff or are informational in nature. And we hear those at our 5 o'clock pre-agenda meeting, which is in this room, and it is televised. And we encourage folks that if you get copies of our agenda and there's something that piques your interest, that those items that you come at 5 o'clock. We'll go ahead and County Manager Mull, if you'll please summarize those.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chairman Mallory. The first item is a request from Cornerstone Christian Academy for approval of an access easement on county-owned property. It was agreed by consensus by the board to review further this request during the budget process. There were a few questions that were asked, and I have the answers to those. The board had asked about what the MedMax balance is, and that's $7,932,132. And the loan for the social services building was paid off in fiscal year 2020. There was also a request from Parks and Recreation for approval of Budget Amendment Number 23 and an amended Future Park Project Ordinance. This amount for the budget amendment was $16,960.88. There was a request from the Department of Social Services for approval of Budget Amendment Number 24 and to expend and receive $163,621 in low-income household water assistance program. A request from Human Resources for approval of public official bonds, which is something we have to do every year. A request from the Finance Department for approval to amend the American Rescue Plan Act Special Revenue Fund Grant Ordinance in the amount of $25,000 to continue 3 part-time staff to clean the courthouse. This was an initiative that began with CARES Act funds that we were paying for. And since the CARES Act funds expire and have to be expended by the end of this month, we are recommending to continue this and use ARPA funds for it. A request from Emergency Medical Services for approval of Budget Amendment Number 22, and that's in the amount of $15,000 to accept grant funds from the Statesville ABC for the Community Response Support Team. A request from Emergency Medical Services for approval of a multi-year agreement with Core Data Software to support the Community Response Support Team. A request from Administration for approval of a resolution authorizing Iredell County to enter into a settlement agreements related to opioid litigation. And then there was an update on the county construction projects, which took no action. It was just for informational purposes. And then finally, an annual review of commissioner assignments. And there was one addition to add the alternate to the Recreation Advisory Board under Commissioner Haupt's column, and that was all agreed by consensus.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on any of the consent items? Is there a motion to approve the consent items less item 8.10, which we're holding over?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Houdt. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Finally, item 8.10 is election of chairman and vice chairman. We do this on an annual basis in December for the next year's worth of meetings. Is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion for Chairman, for you to remain in the chairman position. Chairman Mallory.
There's a motion by Vice Chairman Nieder. Any other motions?
I'd like to make a motion for Vice Chairman, continue, Melissa Neters to continue her job.
Motion by Commissioner Brown to appoint as Vice Chairman Melissa Nieder. We'll treat that as a combined motion for Chairman and Vice Chairman. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign.
Aye.
And the motion carries unanimously. I would just like to say that, lady and gentlemen, I greatly appreciate the opportunity to be serving as chairman for this, my final year on the commission, and the ability to work together to achieve our common goals. It's been a pleasure to work with four different boards constituted slightly differently, but all united in a common purpose to serve the people of Iredell County, and to do so with a sharp eye on the bottom line and providing good, solid government services and creating an environment that business can thrive and prosper, and as a result, the citizens can thrive and prosper with it. And I think you heard tonight the results of a lot of good, hard work. This just doesn't happen. It is the result of intentional policies, not only by this board, but by the municipalities and the school systems and the public safety entities and first responders, everybody working together to provide all of the ingredients necessary to make Iredell County truly the premier place to live and work and raise your family. So I thank you again for this opportunity and look forward to riding in the saddle with you until I get off the horse in a year.
Don't get booked off.
Okay, there are no announcements of any vacancies occurring on boards or commissions. There are no appointments to any boards. There's no unfinished business. We do not have a public comment period this evening. We have a couple items of new business. Commissioner Howe?
I'd got some feedback from citizens. I wanted to congratulate Mooresville. They're going to do an investment in their Liberty Park expansion. And I've had citizens call us that had heard our meetings or watched our meetings and talk about us investing in recreation and Jennings Park and other things. So it's important to our citizens and I think our economic stability. Citizens want something to do in their counties for the kids and other people. So I wanted to congratulate Mooresville for that and to let people know we're looking at those very same things as well. I wanted to congratulate from Melissa and I, the Education Task Force. The schools are all doing a great job in a lot of things, but our North Iredell FFA livestock evaluation event, we had some kids that did a great job there. And I wanted to recognize them as Mackenzie Puckett, Haley King, Lee Johnson, Abby Martin, Cody Barker, Natalie Tucker, Andrew Ladd, and Dalton Jordan. It's been an agriculture county, the FFA programs and things that the schools continue to invest in, and the farming and that kind of stuff is important. And I wanted to congratulate those people and just remind everybody that Melissa and I will be attending on the board's behalf, and somebody else may go, but for the Selma Burke Middle School groundbreaking tomorrow. That's one of our schools that was passed during the bond and the citizen investment. So just a couple updates there, and I wanted to mention from our seat as well the importance for parents right now, especially through the holidays, to continue paying attention to their children. Suicide awareness, we had something on that last week in the county, and it's very important. My wife is a principal, and it's very concerning. These kids are going through some things in this time in our society, but I wanted to remind parents to pay attention to what the kids are doing, if they're excluding themselves in their rooms, and pay attention to their electronic devices and any changes in their lives and their behavior and their attitudes, because they may be needing you more than you think they do. I think that's important. A lot of adults and kids right now are going through some things with COVID and all the other, and the holidays bring on more depression sometimes instead of just happiness. So from our task force, I wanted to remind parents to pay attention to the kids, spend some quality time with them. I know we're trying to do that in our household as much as possible. In a busy society, we forget to do that sometimes. But that's all I had.
Thank you, Commissioner Howe. And while we're mentioning the
FFA.
FFA, Future Farmers of America, it bears mentioning that, Iredell County is the #1 dairy producing county in the state, and agriculture is a big business. And anyone engaged in agriculture knows it is a very difficult business. But we salute our farmers and all they bring to the table, literally and figuratively. Okay, county manager's report.
My report's very brief, just an announcement that this year, the holiday for New Year falls on Friday, December the 31st, so county offices will be closed on that day. That typically is the day that everybody goes, not everybody, but a lot of people go and pay their taxes the last day of the year. Our offices will be closed. So if we have citizens that typically pay the last day of the year, they need to pay on Thursday, December the 30th, as opposed to waiting till Friday the 31st, because we will be closed. So we'll continue to announce that. We'll have that on our website. We announced that on the radio yesterday morning when we were on the radio, but we'll do everything we can to get the word out. But just to let everybody know, the last day to pay that offices will be open will be Thursday, December the 30th. Also, just a reminder that the Lonely Children's Fund is a fund that is run through our Social Services Department that you can donate to if you're looking for a place to donate some funds. That's a great opportunity to help our Department of Social Services provide Christmas for those children that don't have that opportunity, that are in need. So please don't forget the Lonely Children's Fund. The last thing is just the state rankings. The North Carolina Department of Commerce ranks all of our counties, all 100 counties in the state of North Carolina regarding our economic well-being. And that report just came out through the North Carolina Department of Commerce. And of course, Iredell County is still ranked in Tier 3, as Chairman Mallory said. But one of the most surprising things was the increase in our average wage. And it has gone from 51,000 and change to around 59,000, which puts us the 4th highest in the state. And there are only 3 other counties that are higher than us, and that's Durham County, Mecklenburg County, and Wake County. So I think that speaks volumes to the success of our citizens and the wealth of our county, and the fact that, we do have the lowest tax rate around us, but yet we have a lot of success in our county, and we have a lot of good things that are happening in our county. And as Chairman Mallory said, our goal is to be the premier place to live, work, and raise a family. And that is our goal, and our economic development partners are doing a great job bringing those good quality jobs, those high-paying jobs to our county where you can. You don't have to leave the county to work. You can earn a good wage and live and work here and recreate in our parks and rec facilities and things of that nature. So I think that speaks volumes to Iredell County.
Thank you very much, Beth, and please thank your staff. The finance folks, all the department heads, as you heard from the audit report today. Another sterling report, recently validated by the bond issuing rating folks that have given the county a AAA in 2 out of the 3 bond rating entities. And so, once again, that just doesn't happen. It's a lot of very hard work and mostly a mindset of treating the county tax dollars and money like it was in their own budget.
I will echo that. Our staff and our department directors, they actually are more strict with the spending of these dollars than they would their own funds. It's actually interesting when you talk to them. They they measure twice and they cut once, and before they cut, they think about it continually. So they're very conscious that the fact that they're spending taxpayers' dollars. They would not be, and several of them said, I watch the county's dollars a whole lot tighter than I watch my own. And I do want to say, and I know that we have sang the praises of our finance department, but one thing I think that is key to point out is that our finance department has done all of this through the CARES Act funding and now ARPA funding. And when CARES Act funding was out there and everything that they were doing, they were actually positioned down. So not only did they not add new positions, but they were actually a position down during all of this, and they have done an amazing job. And I cannot say enough about the work that they have done. So we have a great team. I cannot sing their praises enough. We could not do this and have a great audit without our department directors, making sure that they are dotting their I's and crossing their T's, and they don't spend the money if they don't have to. They understand that if they don't need it, to let it revert back to the general fund, and then whenever that copier does break, we'll make sure that they have the money to purchase it. But don't purchase it just because you've got the money in the budget and you feel like you need to spend it. If you don't need to, that's okay. When the need is there, we'll help you address that need. So they've worked really well with us. We couldn't do it without them.
Thank you again, and thank you, Keith.
Thank you.
We did have a closed session pursuant to attorney-client General Statute 143-318.11 subsection A3. Nothing specific to report out on those items.
Item, sir.
On attorney-client?
No, I'm sorry.
Okay. And
Sorry
then
about that.
on economic development, pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11 subsection A4, we do have an item to report out.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to amend the call for public hearing for Project Buck from December 7th, 2021 to January 4th, 2022, 7 p.m.
Motion by Commissioner Hount. All in favor, please say aye.
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 We are unanimous. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Motion by Commissioner Brown. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Why did you vote against return?
It's been the night, right?
You want to stay here, right?
That's right.
Marvin?
Tell Mike I said.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Got it, okay.
We're disconnected.
You're adjourned.
He said okay.
He did.
And then we.
He can stay if you want.